She never fought a major battle. She never sank an enemy warship. But the Tirpitz was perhaps the most dangerous weapon in the German Navy. Not because of what she did, but because of what she might do. This is one of the most extraordinary stories of the war. And most people have never heard of it. Tirpitz was Hitler's last great battleship and sister ship of Bismarck. Hiding in Norwegian fjords, she tied down the entire Royal Navy home fleet just by existing. What happens next will test the limits of human courage, ingenuity, and endurance. This is the sinking of the Tirpitz. Tirpitz was identical to Bismarck. 42,000 tons, 8 15-inch guns, 30 knots. But after Bismarck's fate, Hitler was terrified of losing her. She hid in the deep fjords of Norway, protected by mountains, smokescreens, anti-submarine nets, and massive anti-aircraft batteries. Churchill was obsessed with destroying her. The Tirpitz tied down the entire home fleet. Battleships, carriers, and cruisers had to stay ready in case she sortied. The British tried everything. Carrier strikes, midget submarines, bomber raids. Tirpitz survived them all. In September 1943, X-craft midget submarines sneaked past the defenses. They placed explosive charges under Tirpitz's hull. The charges detonated, causing severe damage. Tirpitz's engines were wrecked. But she was still afloat and her guns still worked. While she was being repaired, the RAF tried tallboy bombs. These 5-ton earthquake bombs were designed by Barnes Wallis of Dam Busters fame. The first tallboy raids in September 1944 scored one direct hit. But smoke screens obscured the target and most bombs missed. Tirpitz was moved to Tromsø, further south, where she would serve as a floating coastal battery. This put her within range of British bombers. On November 12, 1944, 32 Lancasters attacked with tallboy bombs. This time, there were no smoke screens. 2 direct hits and a near miss caused catastrophic damage. Tirpitz's ammunition magazine exploded. Tirpitz capsized. Her massive hull rolled over in the shallow water. Nearly 1,000 men were trapped inside. Rescue workers cut through the hull with torches, trying to reach trapped sailors. They saved 87 men. 971 of Tirpitz's crew were killed. The ship that never fought a major battle claimed nearly 1,000 of her own men. After the war, the wreck was slowly scrapped. Norwegian salvage companies cut her apart over several years. Today, pieces of Tirpitz are scattered across Norway. A section of her bow stands as a memorial. The Tirpitz achieved more hiding in a fjord than she ever could have in battle. Her mere existence changed the war at sea. Churchill called the campaign to sink her one of the most important naval objectives of the war. Tirpitz was finally sunk by tallboy earthquake bombs on November 12, 1944. 971 crew members were killed when she capsized. Tirpitz achieved more by existing than by fighting. She tied down enormous Allied resources for years, proving that a fleet in being can be as dangerous as a fleet at sea. The people involved in this story became legends. Their bravery inspired generations. Many of the details remained classified for decades. Only now do we know the full story. Books and films have tried to capture this incredible story. But reality was even more remarkable. The veterans who lived through it rarely spoke about what happened. Some stories are too big for words. This was the sinking of the Tirpitz, hunting Hitler's last battleship. One of the most remarkable stories of the entire war. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today. The events described here shape the world we live in today.